Okay, getting into trapping our opponent's arm with our leg from back control. I'm going to show you guys the straitjacket first, which is the best way of doing it. One of the best ways, because we obviously just covered some of the grip fighting in the last video. And then I'm going to show you guys just something I use a lot that Henry Gracie actually teaches, of just threatening the choke and then using the energy that your opponent gives you to be able to trap the arm. I'm going to show you guys how to properly position your leg to trap the arm, because that's something that I had a lot of problems with. So, the straitjacket is great because it gives me the cross push here, where my left arm is able to push across Kevin's body, pushing his right arm down. If I try to push Kevin from here, it's hard for me to get placement of a really good angle to create a really strong push, and also being able to create a push where his elbow creates an open elbow, pushing it outwards so I can trap it with the leg. My elbow also tends to have to open from here, and I have a hard time. Either I open my elbow to try and increase my pressure of being able to utilize my back a bit, but I become weaker, or I'm trying to do just a tricep press down here, and that's not a strong motion. However, across the body, I can close my elbow and have a really strong push. So from here, what I'm looking at doing is freeing this leg up. So typically you want to have this leg at least across the hip here, so I have some cross body rotational control to make sure that he's unable to get here. If I can do it from, you can do it from having this leg here, but just understand that it can be a little bit weaker. This is more secure. So whether you had the body triangle and now we've secured the straitjacket and now we're going to free up, or have this position, foot on the hip, bring the leg across, foot here, just like I talked about in back control basics. What I'm looking to do is push his arm down here. Having this grip, I have my index or my middle finger wrapped around into the divot of his wrist and my thumb on the other side, and I'm pushing it down. And what I'm looking at doing is not having my knee out here and using flexibility, where you can see how I externally rotate my hip. I'm looking at bringing my knee up over top of his shoulder. And so if you have to, in order to do this, adjust your hip angle. From here, because of the control I have, and because I have his hip here, I can kind of scoop myself down so that I'm going to have a little bit more of a disconnect here, where his shoulder blades are actually going to be a little bit lower down on my ribs rather than chest here, because my head's right next to his head. It can be difficult to bring my leg up like this. But if I'm here, it's much easier for me to bring my crook of my knee up over top of his shoulder, and from here I'm looking to just bring my foot, my heel up closest to the wrist as possible. You can do this sometimes just down here at the crook of the elbow, pushing into his forearm, but obviously the lever control becomes weaker, and I'm only able to do this because my leg can overpower Kevin's arm. And it's also going to be harder for me to bring his arm all the way back so I can trap it effectively. Use this wrist to push it out and guide it. If he's keeping his elbow in really tight, that doesn't matter. We're pushing the wrist out here. I can take this arm and I can create a pull across his body like this to help break his posture and make him weaker. So I can push this out, bring this leg up, and catch it down at the wrist. You can weave it through if you had all this space, you have the length and the flexibility. Otherwise, foot to the wrist and look to create a pressure where I'm going to be pushing against his wrist before I let go of his hand, so there's tension here. So then I'm able to take it behind him. If I place my foot on top of his wrist and I don't have any pressure here, once I let go of this control, it's going to weave it back inside and I've lost everything. So here, creating this strong angle, locking my arm out, knee up over his shoulder, catch down at the wrist. I pull his wrist into my foot and I push my foot into his wrist. And now from here, I let go, sliding it off out of my fingers. And I bring my foot behind the small of his back. So this is where people make mistakes. And sometimes we don't have the room to do it. Any kind of trapping of his arm is going to be useful. But anything that involves me, like having my feet crossed and stuff like this, there's going to be always some space here. And what we see a lot is that people are able to bring their arms back inside. What we're looking at doing is, once we've trapped, so I've adjusted my angle here, once I've started to trap his arm, I'm bringing my foot down behind the small of his back by his hips. And so now this foot just curls up against his hips here, and I close my knee, and look how there's absolutely no space, no room for him to be able to go anywhere. This is going to make it more effective now for me to be able to hold this longer and be able to finish him. if I'm here or here, even like this on his hip, look how there's that space for him to slide through. So hook the leg, close like this, have your shin right against his ribs the whole way, nowhere for him to be able to go. Then we start working for our chokes with the gi or for the rear naked. Another option, I can still do this against black belts, but it's not as successful, is just going for the choke. And by going for the choke, this invokes the response of this arm. He has to respect it. He has to be constantly pulling, because if he's not pulling, well, I'm just going to finish the choke. As he pulls, he's creating force this direction. Now I'm just going to use that against him. So as he creates this pull, it's a real threat. I extend my arm outwards with it. I just let him go and I push to accelerate it, and I trap his arm. I can throw my leg over. I'm turning my hand down, thumb down, hand out, and I'm looking to catch here, creating a wall so it's not so easy for him to be able to get his arm back. And I throw my leg over top. And I can even throw it over top of my own arm because it's going to be easy for me to, with my thumb pointing this direction, bring it out. So I don't care. I'll even trap my own arm at first as I then extract it. Very good guys that know this are going to kind of react differently by pulling downwards and not exaggerating pulling outwards too much. That's going to be making it more complicated, but a good choke, a good first attempt is like this good jab in boxing where I'm really going for it. It's a threat. He has to respect it. He is pulling hard. I trap it, and my leg comes behind the small of his back. I close here, and now I start working on getting back into finishing my choke. So, doesn't work against savvy guys, especially in the first round where you might get him with the first one, and then the second one he's going to be savvy to it. The straitjacket is a much more systematic way of being able to force somebody into it regardless of how much they know about the position and what your intent is. But, I mean, honestly, I use that, the latter one a lot still. There's no risk to it. You're just going for the choke, and then you're trying to extend them out to throw the leg over. So, trap the arm with the leg. It's what I prefer doing because some guys are so good at being able to defend the back forever. In order to choke them, using our motorcycle grip to take one arm out of the equation, utilizing our leg to take the other arm out of the equation, so that now it's just our arm versus their chin defense. That is typically how I manage to submit brown and black belts at higher levels because everyone's defense is just too good against back control. Everyone knows how to do this stuff at a very basic and early level. So hope you guys enjoy that, and I hope you're able to make some use out of it.